Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The U.S. automotive industry has been rocked by a sweeping 25% tariff on all imported cars, a move that's upended global supply chains and sent shockwaves through the market. Hyundai Motor Group, a major player, has announced a complete withdrawal from the U.S., signaling a dramatic shift in the industry's landscape. For American consumers, this means higher prices and fewer choices. For workers, it's a direct threat to jobs. The decision underscores the fragility of global partnerships and the risks of aggressive trade policy. Even Hyundai's billions in U.S. investments couldn't shield it from the fallout. As the dust settles, the industry faces urgent questions. Will other automakers follow? Can U.S.-South Korea relations recover? And what's next for American car buyers? This story explores the roots, impacts, and far-reaching consequences of a trade war that's only just begun. To understand today's crisis, we must look back at America's long history of using auto tariffs as leverage. The 1964 chicken tax imposed a 25% tariff on imported trucks, protecting U.S. automakers for decades. In the 1980s, Japanese imports led to voluntary export restraints, driving up prices and straining international relations. The late 20th century saw a shift toward free trade, with NAFTA integrating North American auto production and lowering costs. But this globalized system also created vulnerabilities exposed by recent protectionist moves. President Trump's earlier threats under Section 232 set the stage for today's aggressive tariffs. The cycle of protectionism and liberalization has returned, with the current crisis proving that old trade battles never truly end. The stakes for the industry, and for consumers, are higher than ever. In April 2025, the Trump administration's blanket 25% tariff on imported cars and parts stunned the world. Stock prices for global automakers like Toyota, Volkswagen, and Hyundai plummeted, and companies withdrew financial guidance amid chaos. For consumers, sticker prices soared overnight. An imported $30,000 car now costs $37,500 or more. Even U.S. automakers, reliant on global parts, faced rising costs and production headaches. The administration's tax credits and steel tariff rollbacks offered little relief. The policy, meant to protect American jobs, instead froze the industry and threatened to hurt the very companies it aimed to help. The shockwaves were immediate, and the uncertainty profound. Hyundai's decision to exit the U.S. market sent shockwaves through the automotive world. The move was unprecedented, triggered by a combination of steep tariffs and shifting trade policies that made its business model unsustainable almost overnight. For decades, Hyundai had been a symbol of South Korea's industrial might, steadily building its reputation and market share in America. The company's exit was hastened by a major immigration raid at its Georgia battery plant, which not only disrupted operations but also deepened tensions with local authorities. The incident signaled a more hostile environment for foreign manufacturers, raising questions about the future of international investment in the U.S. Despite pouring billions into U.S. factories and launching a state-of-the-art EV facility, Hyundai found itself unable to offset the crippling costs of tariffs on both finished vehicles and essential parts. The company's ambitious plans for American expansion were suddenly at risk as the financial burden became too great to bear. Hyundai concluded it couldn't absorb the mounting losses or pass them on to consumers without risking a collapse in sales. The price hikes required to stay afloat would have made their cars unaffordable for many American families, undermining decades of brand loyalty and trust. Over the next 2 years, the company will gradually wind down its U.S. operations, halting imports and ramping down production at its Alabama plant. Thousands of workers will be affected, and the local economies that depended on Hyundai's presence will feel the impact. The fate of its nearly finished Georgia battery facility now hangs in the balance. Once a symbol of Hyundai's commitment to American manufacturing, it's likely to be abandoned, a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. More than 800 dealerships across the country will be supported through the transition, but the message is clear. Hyundai and its sister brand Kia, which once commanded 10% of the U.S. market, are leaving. The departure will reshape the competitive landscape for years to come. The withdrawal marks a turning point for the American auto industry, with ripple effects for workers, dealers, and consumers nationwide. Communities that relied on Hyundai for jobs and economic growth now face an uncertain future. It's a stark warning to other foreign automakers about the risks of doing business in an unpredictable U.S. market, where policy shifts can upend even the most carefully laid plans. As Hyundai and Kia depart, the American auto landscape will never be the same, and the industry must now adapt to a new era of uncertainty and change. The recent tariffs, combined with Hyundai's sudden exit from the market, have sent shockwaves through the auto industry. Car prices are climbing at an unprecedented rate, with new imports now costing thousands more than just a few months ago. For many buyers, the dream of owning a new car is quickly fading as sticker prices soar beyond reach. Domestic automakers aren't immune to these changes. Even cars assembled locally rely heavily on imported parts, and as those costs rise, so do the prices of homegrown vehicles. The entire supply chain is feeling the squeeze, from manufacturers to mechanics. The result is a projected 20–30% drop in new car sales this year. Meanwhile, demand for used vehicles is skyrocketing as buyers search for more affordable options. This surge is pushing used car prices to record highs, making even older models less accessible. Over 1,500 Hyundai and Kia dealerships now face closure, putting thousands of jobs at risk and sending shockwaves through local economies that depend on these businesses. Family-owned dealerships, skilled mechanics, and dedicated sales staff are all facing an uncertain future as their main source of income disappears almost overnight. The impact is being felt in communities across the country, from bustling urban neighborhoods to quiet small towns, where dealerships are often pillars of the local economy. The used car market is now distorted, with some models selling for more than their original price. For many, even a reliable used car is becoming a luxury. Reliable transportation is slipping out of reach for countless families, forcing some to delay or abandon plans to buy a car altogether. A single trade policy has unraveled the industry's delicate balance, leaving consumers, small businesses, and entire communities to bear the brunt of these rapid changes. The economic pain is real, immediate, and widespread, touching lives in every corner of the country and leaving many to wonder what the future holds for the auto industry. The imposition of tariffs has sent shockwaves through global supply chains, shattering the just-in-time model that once kept costs low and production running smoothly. What was once a seamless network of suppliers and manufacturers stretching across continents is now riddled with delays, uncertainty, and rising expenses. Factories in Japan, Germany, and South Korea are feeling the pressure. Orders have plummeted, assembly lines have slowed, and the threat to jobs is growing, not just for major suppliers, but for thousands of smaller firms that depend on the global auto trade. Automakers now face a difficult crossroads. Should they absorb the mounting losses, pass higher costs on to already frustrated consumers, or consider abandoning the lucrative US market altogether? Each option carries its own risks and uncertainties. The Trump administration's 2-year window for increasing US content has triggered a frantic, costly race to reshore production. Companies are scrambling to build new facilities, hire workers, and source parts domestically, often at a premium. But building new factories and supply lines is both expensive and slow. There's no guarantee these investments will pay off, and the risk of failure looms large for even the biggest players. The result? Higher costs, lower quality, and less innovation as companies scramble to localize. The pressure to meet new requirements is straining resources and pushing teams to their limits. The dream of a self-sufficient US auto industry is colliding with harsh realities. Instead of a renaissance, America may end up with a less competitive, more isolated market, one that struggles to keep up with global trends. The global auto industry is being fundamentally reshaped. The consequences will be lasting, affecting not just price, but also the quality and variety of vehicles available to consumers everywhere. The supply chain crisis is not a temporary blip. It's a new reality that businesses, workers, and consumers must learn to navigate. The world's automakers are being forced to adapt, innovate, or retreat. The choices made today will shape the industry for years to come. The tariffs have sparked a diplomatic crisis between the US and South Korea, threatening a 70-year alliance. South Korea's government, already under economic strain, views the tariffs and immigration raids as a betrayal by its closest ally. The fallout has fueled anti-American sentiment and left the security partnership in jeopardy. President Trump is using the trade dispute as leverage in defense cost negotiations, risking further alienation. The alliance, crucial for regional stability and deterrence against North Korea, now hangs in the balance. South Korea faces immense pressure to stand up to Washington while protecting its security interests. Diplomats on both sides are scrambling, but the path to resolution is narrow and fraught with risk. The crisis could unravel a cornerstone of America's presence in Asia. The stakes are geopolitical as well as economic. Industry leaders and experts are sounding the alarm over the tariffs and Hyundai's exit. Automakers warn of shrinking profit margins and have pulled financial guidance, signaling deep uncertainty. The consensus protectionism may be politically popular, but it's economically damaging and destabilizing. Trade experts highlight the risk of alienating key partners and disrupting global investment. The 2-year window for increasing U.S. content is seen as a sign these tariffs are here to stay. Companies are being forced to invest in U.S. production not for efficiency, but for survival. The result could be a fragmented, less innovative global auto industry with higher costs and fewer choices. The long-term consequences are profound and likely permanent. The U.S. auto industry stands at a crossroads, battered by protectionism and diplomatic fallout. Consumers face higher prices and fewer choices, while workers and businesses grapple with uncertainty. The administration's push for domestic manufacturing may backfire, leading to job losses in other sectors and a less competitive industry. The fate of thousands of workers and billions in investment hangs in the balance. Internationally, America's reliability as a trade partner is in question, and repairing trust will be a long road. The America First approach may have isolated the U.S. more than it has protected it. The decisions made now will shape the industry and the economy for years to come. This is not just a business story, it affects every American family and community. As the world watches, the future of the American drive is being decided. The destination is uncertain, and the stakes couldn't be higher.